ESPN Daily. Good morning. The NFL's ban of jersey exchanges for the upcoming season due to COVID-19 concerns feels about as silly as when my parents told a younger me that I couldn't watch The Mummy, even though I had already watched I Know What You Did Last Summer at my grandmother's house. Here's your ESPN Daily. Well, at least somebody knows that one COVID rule is silly. You can do better than that, girl. Blackfeet boxing, not invisible. It has been called an invisible epidemic. On reservations across North America, Native American women are missing or murdered in rates 10 times higher than the general population. But on one reservation, the women are learning to fight back, literally by stepping into the boxing ring. Cool. Yes, women should learn to fight. That's really nothing new. On Montana's Blackfoot Reservation, the Blackfeet Nation Boxing Club teaches young women how to defend themselves both inside and outside the ring. It's all chronicled in a new documentary, Blackfeet Boxing, Not Invisible, from ESPN Films. On today's episode of the ESPN Daily Podcast, Kristen Lapis, who directed the documentary, reflects on her experiences in making the film, which airs at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday on ABC. Then, former NFL offensive lineman Jeff Schwartz shares his thoughts on Deshaun Jackson's recent anti-Semitic social media posts. Posts like plural? Because I only saw that one that was a fake quote from Hitler. Did he post multiple fake quotes from Hitler? UFC 251. It's on at Fight Island. After months of unknowns and endless hype, Fight Island... Yawn. I'm sorry. Fight Island is super exciting. Fight Island is finally happening this Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN+. The UFC, after already having completed 8 events during the coronavirus panic, is promising even tighter health and safety protocols on Abu Dhabi's Yas Island. Yas. In addition to undergoing significantly more testing than the UFC has done so far, those involved in the 4 events this month will be relegated to a safe zone where members of the general public will not be allowed. All those contained in the safe zone, including local workers and the UFC's traveling party, will be tested for COVID-19 several times. Generally, people in the contained area will not have in-and-out privileges. It's going to be the tightest bubble that you could sort of ever produce, UFC COO Lawrence Epstein told ESPN. It's a pretty unique situation on an island with incredible controls over who's coming in and not letting people come back in once they've left. The presence of a true bubble is one of the biggest differences between the shows in the United States and those being held this month in Abu Dhabi. All right, now that we have the how and safety part of this equation sorted out, let's get into what's about to go down in the octagon. Just 1 week ago, Jorge Masvidal was home in Florida. The UFC 251 main event was supposed to pit welterweight champion Kamaru Usman against contender Gilbert Burns, but things changed very quickly, as they do sometimes. In MMA and, in the midst of a panic, the promotion agreed to a multi-fight deal with Masvidal to have him fight Usman for the belt on just 6 days' notice. And thus, the biggest question coming in: how prepared is Masvidal? Usman versus Masvidal was the fight the UFC originally tried to make before an extended contract dispute with Masvidal. 5 weeks ago, those talks fell apart and Masvidal did not complete a full training camp. Actively training or not, defeating Usman will not be an easy task. Usman, 16-1, has never lost in the UFC and is on a streak of 11 straight victories. Masvidal, 35-13, on the other hand, is getting his first UFC title shot after 48 career fights, the second highest total for a UFC title fight debutant? The second highest total for a UFC title fight debutant. UFC 251 will feature 2 other title fights as well. Alexander Volkanovski will put his featherweight belt on the line against the man he beat at UFC 245, Max Holloway. Former featherweight champion Jose Aldo will face, I don't know this name, so I don't know what the next letter is, something Yan, for the vacant bantamweight title, with a chance for Aldo to become just the 8th fighter in UFC history to win titles in 2 weight classes. ESPN asked some of the MMA's leading coaches, as well as some fighters with knowledge of the athletes, to weigh in on the upcoming bouts. Kamaru Usman, his father, and a Texas prison. Kamaru? Is it Kamaru or is it Kamaru? Kamaru Usman? Kamaru Usman's father has never seen one of his son's MMA bouts in person, but he has rarely missed a fight. Over the past 7 years, Muhammad Nasiru Usman turned UFC fights into appointment viewing for the inmates of the Federal Correctional Institution in Seagoville, Texas. Seagoville, I've never heard of that place. Almost every time UFC welterweight Usman fought, the minimum security satellite camp turned into a full-fledged cheering section. All 6 televisions, which the inmates usually divided, were turned to the UFC broadcast. I honestly can't say there was anything else we looked forward to more, says D. Ray, an inmate in 2007 to 13 and 2017 to 20. Nothing could replace that. That was a time when everyone came together, black, white, and Mexican, and enjoyed the festivities. It kind of put us in the arena, so to speak. We didn't think about what we were going through during that time. Those fight nights were special in Seagoville, and the undefeated Usman never let them down. Unbeknownst to his father, Kamaru had asked the UFC not to book him on pay-per-view as he knew the Seagoville prison camp wouldn't purchase a pay-per-view for his father. But now Kamaru's father is out. While Muhammad can't accompany his son to Fight Island, he knows he will someday experience his son's MMA career in person. That's nice. What was he in prison for? I am curious. Business is booming for Holloway Inc. Over the past 18 months, I'm going to yawn again. Over the past 18 months, Max Holloway's life has undergone a dramatic makeover. Rather than a one-man operation, he's more like a sports franchise. Holloway's medical and nutrition plans were overhauled, his financial planning was streamlined, a corporation was set up, and Holloway the fighter was put on salary to promote savings and investments. The idea was to take the distractions out of Holloway's day-to-day life and have him concentrate solely on training and fighting. The problem is you got to make sure that you're choosing the right people to manage your stuff, because you could be taken advantage of. Christopher Daggett, his manager, would be the general manager, and Holloway could lean into being the star player. Before, I was the CEO, the CFO, the broker, the 28-year-old Holloway said. Whatever you want to name it as a role of the franchise, I was it. And the player. Now I'm just the player. They're not taking anything away from me. They didn't demote me in any way. I just get to focus on fighting now. So what prompted this seismic shift in how Holloway operates? From the White House to the Toronto Raptors. Here's the story of Holloway Inc. Okay. Weekend binge reads. Meet the NBA's bubble barbers. 1 bubble, 6 barbers. For as unusual... Sorry. For as unusual as the NBA's bubble will be, the league and the National Basketball Players Association are making a concerted effort to provide aspects of normality, such as a players-only lounge with NBA 2K, TVs, arcade gaming, and ping pong. There are resort-style outdoor spaces with shade, a setup for card games and pool access. There are trails for running or riding bikes, and yes, there will be 6 barbers, 3 stylists, and 3 manicurists on set. So how did the aforementioned 6 barbers go about landing one of the coveted spots? It all came down to experience, familiarity, and Rajon Rondo's brother. This sign says, I've always used basketball to try to bring people together. Today I feel is a day we need that most. I have hand sanitizer if you'd like to play. Stephanie. Hoop streams. Making a career out of playing sports used to be reserved for those with superior athletic abilities, but the internet is changing all that, and the burgeoning sports community of original content creators continues to grow. Social media stars like Stefania E. Like Stefania Ergemlides provides a glimpse into a new future. Growing up with physical disability and having never with a physical disability, and having never played organized basketball, Ergamlides never envisioned a path where she could turn her passion for hoops into a way to make money and be a voice for positivity within her community. That is, until she started doing it. Following the killing of George Floyd and protests emerging across the country. Ergamlides wanted to find a way to unite people on the streets, so she took a basketball hoop she had and traveled to Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and Minneapolis at the heart of the protests emerging around the country. And apparently had a sign. Things to watch. Canelo versus Curry. Steph Curry don't want no smoke. Curry and Canelo Alvarez engaged in a makeshift sparring session during a recent golf outing, and just one jab from the middleweight champ was all it took for Curry to, wisely, abort the fake boxing match. Canelo threw a hand so quick that it shocked Curry into stumbling a bit. Then, to add insult to injury, someone off camera shouted, "Steph, you're supposed to move, dude." It's okay, Steph. Just wait until he has to meet you at the 3-point line. Overheard. I am proud of my Jewish heritage, and for me it is not just about religion. It's about community and culture as well. Anti-Semitism is one of the oldest forms of hatred. It's rooted in ignorance and fear. Julian Edelman on Deshaun Jackson's anti-Semitic social media posts. Remember when? On this date in 1999, Brandi Chastain scored the winning shootout goal in the Women's World Cup final. You might remember it for her instantly iconic celebration that involved ripping off her jersey and whipping it around her head like Petey Pablo, a lariat. Okay. Until next time, remember, Joel Embiid departing for the NBA's Orlando bubble wearing a hazmat suit gave me strong Heisenberg from Breaking Bad vibes. It also felt like a look Cam Newton would have accessorized nicely. This has been your ESPN Daily for Friday, June 10th, 2020. All right. That's it for ESPN.